maximum production or supply in any area at stable prices of any materials in light of a temporary increase in transportation costs, the head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated the authority of the President to make subsidy payments after consultation with the Secretary of Treasury and the Director of OMB. Section 305, Determinations and Findings. Pursuant to budget authority provided by an Appropriations Act in advance for credit assistance under Section 301 or 302 of the Act, and consistent with Federal Credit Reform Act of 1990, as amended. In other words, they're going to call it FCRA throughout this. The head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated the presidential authority to make determinations set forth in sections, it specifies the sections, in consultation with the secretary making the required determination, that such determination shall be made after due consideration of the provisions from OMB and the credit subsidy score of the relevant loan or loan guarantee as approved by the OMB pursuant to the FCRA. So they will be telling you, they're going to be dictating financial policy. They're going to tell you what they're going to pay for things if they decide to pay for things, and so on and so forth. And they have the sole discretionary authority to make all of those determinations. That's what that means. B, other than any determination by the president under section so on of the act, the head of each agency engaged in procurement, again, is given presidential determination, presidential authority to make required determinations, judgments, certifications, findings, and notifications. So they'll decide whether or not they're going to notify people of things. Defined under, gives the section, in consultation with the secretary making the required determination under section 202 of this order. Section 306, strategic and critical materials. The Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of the Interior, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense as the National Defense Stockpile Manager, are each delegated the authority of the President, gives the section, to encourage the exploration. In other words, under military authority, they're going to encourage exploration, development, and mining of strategic and critical materials and other materials. So we will militarily encourage other people to cooperate with us for the exploration. In other words, we're going to find the resources we want, development and mining of the strategic and critical materials and other materials. You guys have 2 cents to contribute about that?
Oh, that's amazing. You know, everything we do is a resource grab anyway. So this doesn't surprise me in the least. But, you know, the scope and the severity of everything that's involved in this entire, you know, executive order is just, it's
so huge, dude. It's vast. I don't even know how else to explain it. I know what you mean. It's like the Grand Canyon of executive orders when it comes to martial law.
Piling on us. They keep piling on. You know, we had NDAA, which was big enough already. Then we had HR 658 with the drones. You know, we got the SIP with the strategic implementation plan, and now this. It's like, holy cow, these guys mean business.
Anyone else still think that they're not trying to create a police state?
Yeah,
don't forget,
blind.
The NDAA gave them authority to, you know, basically take people and permanently detain them without due process or anything else.
Well, let me rephrase. Hold on. Let's fix that.
Sure.
They think it gave them the authority.
Right.
Constitutionally,
exactly.
It didn't give them the authority to do anything. And as far as I'm concerned, that's null and void. So is this and everything else. But
sure,
I know what you mean. Go on.
Yeah, carrying it out is another story. Right?
Exactly.
So there's that, and as we'll see here, their intent. You know, just a couple of days ago, they announced the creation of FEMA labor corps. You know, that or serving service corps that people will serve and be inscripted to serve. And then this comes out, and later on we'll see that they, are talking about slave labor, literally slave labor. It's not an exaggeration. Section 307, substitutes. The head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is given presidential authority to make provision for the development of substitutes for strategic and critical materials, critical components, critical technology items, and other resources to aid the national defense. What that means is that they will have to provide um, substitutes for certain things that we do not have access to in this country, but that we need. They're talking about rare earth elements and things like that are predominantly mined in other countries, like things like lithium, cadmium, neodymium. We use silver in technology, gold, all kinds of resources. So they also want to develop substitutions that they can use when, for whatever reason, we cannot get to certain resources, certain what they call critical materials, critical components, critical technology items, and other resources to aid the national defense. Section 308, government-owned equipment. The heads of each agency engaged in the procurement for the national defense is delegated presidential authority to A. Procure and install additional equipment, facilities, processes, or improvements to plants, factories, and other industrial facilities owned by the federal government, and to procure and install government-owned equipment in plants, factories, and other industrial facilities owned by private persons. Government-owned equipment. That means that they will be installing probably a lot of spy technology and control technology in private industrial facilities, plants, factories. So I'm going to read that again so that you make sure that everybody understands what this is saying. Procure and install additional equipment, facilities. In other words, if they want some of their people in your facility, inspectors on a regular basis to make sure that you're serving the government like a nice little slave, then you have to have those facilities incorporated into your place of business. So additional equipment, facilities, processes, that basically means programs and so on and so forth, technological implementation programs, or improvements to plants, factories, and other industrial facilities, and to procure and install government-owned equipment in plants, factories, and other industrial facilities owned by private persons. Again, nationalization of everything, including private businesses and anything they want. They're going to take it. B. Provide for the modification or expansion of privately owned facilities, including the modification or improvement of production processes when taking actions under sections 301, 302, and it specifies the section, and sell or otherwise transfer equipment owned by the federal government. If there's things that they're telling a plant owner that need to be installed in their plant, they will sell it to you. You have to buy it, okay? No, you don't have the option of saying no. You're going to have to buy it. So sell or otherwise transfer equipment owned by the federal government and installed under Section 303E of this Act to the owners of such plants, factories, and other industrial facilities. Okay. Section 309, Defense Production Act Fund. Okay. The Secretary of Defense is designed the Defense Production Act Fund manager in accordance with Section 304 of this Act, and shall carry out the duties specified in Section 304 of the Act in consultation with agency heads having approved and appropriated funds for projects under Title III of the Act. Section 310, Critical Items. The head of each agency engaged in procurement for the national defense is delegated the authority of the President under Section so on to take appropriate action to ensure that critical components, critical technology items, essential materials, and industrial resources are available from reliable sources when needed to meet defense requirements during peacetime, graduated mobilization, and national emergency. We're not talking about some big emergency situation that's going to kick all this into gear, people. We're talking about this is the new way of life for America. Implementation of these controls under peacetime. Or graduated mobilization, not really sure what that means. I guess the slowly implemented martial law and national emergency. Appropriate action may include restricting contract solicitations to reliable sources, restricting contract solicitations to domestic sources pursuant to statutory authority, stockpiling